same time, I meet with the Central Indiana Conference of Elected Officials. It's 18 mayors in Central Indiana, and we meet as a think tank and talk about things that are going on. So it's always good to come back to the chamber. So, and I appreciate the turnout today. I want to talk to you a little bit about what we did in 2019 and what's going to happen this year and a couple of years down the road. Last year, our Common Council passed a balanced and funded budget for 2020. It was very good. It included 2% cost of living adjustments to all employees and retirees. So that is the 8th year that we have given at least 2% raises to employees and to retirees. So we're very happy about that. We approved another year of premiums for our AIM Medical Trust. Our medical premiums for 2020 went up 2.9%, and that's excellent. Our liability insurance with NFP and IPAP workman's comp were renewed for this year, and we had a total of $9,000 increase in premiums for both. So the city is doing well. We went with a different dental carrier called Bgsn, and we signed a 2-year deal with no premium increases. So these are good news for the city, and it's good news for the employees of the city. My report to you today is no different than it has been for the last 8 years. I have 3 priorities as mayor. The first priority is your personal safety and the personal safety of the police officer, the firefighter, and the employees of the city of Betrothed, especially those out of DPW. Infrastructure is the second priority. And the third priority is department delivery of services, quality of life, and economic development. Those are the 3 parameters that I will prop up every year, and it will be the same way for the next 4 years. I want to start out with our police department. In 2019, we had the highest level of staff that we have ever had in our city. We had 35 sworn police officers. We have at least 8 other positions within the police department. So we were very happy about that. We lost our chief last year to retirement. Chief Mark Schwartz retired after 37 years of service as a police officer. He served the city as police chief for the last 8 years. He did a remarkable job for the city. He's replaced, we have a new chief, and he's here today. Mike Maurice is the new chief. Mike's right in the back. And then we have a new deputy chief, Robert Mercury. Bob used to head up our detective division, and Bob is now the number 2 person. So we had an exhaustive process. It lasted about 2 weeks, but it was very rewarding, and I'm very happy with how it turned out, and I'm very happy with the direction of the department. Our crime, part 1 crime, part 2 crimes are down over last year. We have been rated as the 5th safest city in Indiana, but that's just a number. Crime can occur to anybody at any time, anywhere. So we have to be diligent when it's talking about fighting crime. We had 19 part 1 crimes. Those are violent crimes that occurred in our city last year. And I want to run through those with you. We had 1 murder. We had 3 assaults, 3 rapes, 12 armed robberies, for a total of 19 part 1 violent crimes. In 2019, we had 1 arson, 31 burglaries, 164 larcenies, and 70 stolen vehicles, for a total of 266 property crimes. That number is down as well. In 2019, our police department responded to 311 traffic accidents. 12 of those were alcohol related, and we had one fatality, and it was a motorcycle fatality at Emerson and Maine. Our police department used over $104,000 in gas. We maintained at least 41 fleet vehicles. Our special response team logged over 130 hours of training. We had 6 special response team call-outs. And then we used over 20,000 rounds of ammunition in training. Those are significant numbers that nobody really ever hears about. But that's where we're at. So very happy with these numbers. I know that these numbers can change every day, but for the most part, we're doing very well as a police department. I do want to talk to you a little bit. I was going to talk very briefly about the referendum when I get closer to the end, but I do want to talk about the relationship between the Detroit Police Department and the city schools. Back in 2013, the superintendent, who's Paul Kaiser, is here today. Paul, you could raise your hand. Paul and I sat down and talked about, I had a desire to have a police officer in the school district. So we worked out a split, and we put a police officer at the high school. And I wanted to do it for one reason, and that was so that kids could feel comfortable approaching the police officer and tell them if something was wrong. So that was the reason why I wanted to do it. And Paul concurred, and we did it. So we've had an officer in the school since 2013. And I hope that if the day ever came that something could happen over there, somebody would come forward and speak with the police officer and mitigate the problem before something happened. That happened about 2 years ago. So we were blessed that there was a student who came forward and said that there's a problem, and they mitigated it immediately. So what's that have to do with the referendum? Well, the referendum that's going to come up in May calls for, if it passes, calls for 3 additional police officers in the city schools. And we're still talking about it, but the city, as part of the referendum, the city would, or the school would absorb 70% of the cost of those. I happen to agree with that. I think it's good. It's good for the city, it's good for the school district, and it's good for the parents who sit at home and worry about what's going on in the school district. So we're going to continue to work through it. We have 2 or 3 other part-time officers that work in the school district now. So it's a high school and the middle school, and I think they go to Southbrook Intermediate every once in a while. But this would really help with the relationship between the student and the police. Plus, there is some mental health initiatives that are going to take place between families and students. So these are good things. So when it comes May, you may want to consider that, because I think it's worthwhile, and I think the city and the school district should do it. So we're going to do one anyway. Regardless if the referendum passes or fails, we're still going to add a second officer to the schools. That's out of a desire for the school district wants that to happen. So I think it's good. Our chief and deputy chief is working with the school district on making sure that happens. in allocating funds for that. So I'm very happy about that. The biggest need of this city, as far as I'm concerned, for 2020 is the construction of a police station. This has been batted around for 2 or 3 years. Some say, we should leave it alone, but there's a lot of support for it. I happen to think that we should do something. These men and women are working out of the same building since 1972. In 72, they had 17 police officers. Now we have 35. Same building. Hard to process evidence, hard to talk to witnesses. It's hard to separate witnesses from suspects. So I think the city should take a look at this year. I'll talk about the fire department in a minute, as they need a new facility as well. But I've made it perfectly clear that to the fire department and to the 416 that the police station is my highest priority. And once we're done with that, then we'll look into the fire station. We have to do that to sustain our public safety. Our public safety is the most important thing that we can do as a city. And we have an obligation to protect all of you. And this will go a long way in helping us give you those services. 2019, the city budgeted $4.161 million for police protection. And at the end of 2019, they had an operational balance of a little under $43,000. So the police department did very well in providing a service and staying within their budget. The fire department also performed very well. And I want to add something with the police department. In 1972, when the station was opened on Churchwood, they had a little over 500 runs that they were sent on. In 2019, working out of the same building, they had over 22,000 runs they were dispatched to. So it's changed. Fire department is no different than they were in 18. They're making more runs than they've ever made. The fire department, our fire department, made over almost 10,000 runs in 2019. Our chief is here, Chief Cheshire. He's around here somewhere. He's back here. He's been chief as long as I've been mayor. So he's done a wonderful job, and I look forward to working with him for the next 4 years. In 2019, we received a grant, FEMA grant, for $28,000 to purchase gear extractors, industrial washing machines for each station. And that is, when they go out on a fire, they come back, they should not put that gear back on. It should be washed and then dried properly. The police department, we're working to provide mental health avenues for the police officer. For the firefighter, we are working to minimize the risk of cancer. The history of the fire department shows that you either have, when you retire, if you survive, you either have heart disease or cancer, one of the two. I had heart disease. Most have cancer, thyroid cancer. So now there are provisions that we test our firefighters. These services are going to be provided for them because we have to deal with what's in front of us, and that is we are losing more and more firefighters. And it doesn't make sense. I did it all the time. You put your gear on, and then you go out and you fight a fire, and then you have all that stuff on you, the smoke, the contaminants on your gear, and you go back to the fire station, you get out of the fire truck, you take your gear off, and you hang it up on the truck, and then it sits there, and then an hour later, you go on another run, you have to put that gear on, and you continually expose yourself all the time. So now what is being done is these guys have 2 and 3 sets of gear, and they wash it and they put clean gear on, and it's just a revolving door. Our stations don't have the proper treatment to do these gears and masks, so we have to make some changes. One of the best investments the city made in 2019 was we replaced the SCBA, self-contained breathing apparatus, that the firefighter wears when they go into a contaminated environment. That was about a $300,000 investment, but it was worth every penny of it. And now they have the best gear possible. That's all we can do. The police have the best vests, shields, firefighters have the best turnout gear and protective equipment. So if something happens, then you at least have the comfort to know that you did everything you could to protect them and keep them safe. But it's a risky business. So Engine 56, which is down on Albany, 2,900 runs. Engine 57, which is on Churchman, 2,200 runs. Medic 56, 2,400 runs. Medic 57, 2,200 runs. No fatalities, no injuries. Fire loss of $927,000 last year, which is really good. Fire inspections 3, 4, which is really good. We collected $1.2 million in ambulance billing receivables. The chief did a presentation at the last council meeting, and the council has asked to hear an ordinance on to increase our revenues, or increase our charges for ambulance revenue. So we're going to be doing that sometime in April. And then we will talk about the fire station once the police station is passed on. In 2019, the fire department's budget was $4.38 million. So between the police and fire, that's almost $9 million that's paid to provide these 2 services to the city of Beach Grove. And again, I like our services that we provide. We can always do better, and we strive to do better. So if you ever need us, all you have to do is call. Corona, I don't really want to talk about the coronavirus until the very end, but this directly affects the police department and the fire department, and we'll talk a little bit about it as this little speech concludes today. Our Public Works Director is here, Brad. Brad's in the back. Police and fire get all the glory, but these people provide a tremendous service to the city of Beach Grove. They have excellent facilities, excellent equipment, and they do very well. He's been an excellent director. He's been with me since the day I became mayor. And we have probably received, everybody says you need to hire a grant writer. We've probably received $14 to $15 million in grants since I've been mayor, and he's written almost all of them. So kudos to Brad. Last year, DPW filled only 55 potholes, that's all. 62 tons of asphalt were used last year. We regraded 61 alleys, replaced 44 signs, picked up 181 mattresses and box springs, delivered 153 new totes. The guys out at DPW collected over 4,640 tons of trash. 470 tons of recycling was picked up. In 2015, there were none. 473 tons of trash went to the landfill. Now it's reused. 414 tons of street sweeping debris was collected, and 705 billion 117 gallons of wastewater was treated last year. And I don't think they had very many injuries out there. The equipment that they use now is top of the line, and it provides many safety features for the employee. So kudos to Brad, and especially his guys out there at DPW. He also submitted the MS4 report with our consulting agency, Wessler. Wessler folks are here today. DPW was also instrumental in the cleanup after the EF1 tornado in September that nobody really ever talks about. But if you ask the people down on Elm Street and South 4th, they'll tell you what they think of DPW. Because they went and helped pick up all their trash. Very few people know the relationship between DPW and the city schools. The city schools comes over and gets salt. The city schools comes over and gets hot patch to do potholes. So these are programs that the cooperation between the school district and the city is excellent, but we never talk about these programs. So I want to talk about it because it's very important, and it's okay to do that. Brad works off of two budgets, local roads and streets and MVH. He had a budget of $2,121,740. And at the end of the year, there was a balance of $17,600. Very good. Excellent management. In 2020, we have getting ready to release our paving. And through our friends at United, who are here today as well, when we get done with this paving program in 2020, we will have completely redone 70 roads since 2012. The state, NDOT, has given us over $1.5 million in community crossing grant funding. And we expect to hear something very soon concerning this go around. We've requested, I think, $350,000 this year as well. I'm excited about this year because of the infrastructure improvements that are going to happen. We have some drainage work that we're going to do with our friends at Wessler. But I want to pass on to you, over the next 2 to 3 years, this city will receive over almost $7 billion in funding to make big infrastructure improvements that we would never be able to afford. This spring, out at Churchman Bypass in Arlington, we will construct a roundabout. It's an industrial roundabout. And it's about a $1.7 million project. It's already paid for completely. It was funded by the Indianapolis Metropolitan Planning Organization. And the road will close out there right around Memorial Day. And it will be closed for at least 60 days. The final work on the Greenway is completed from an NDOT perspective, and it should go out for bid on August 5th. That is a $2.9 million project. That is $2.3 million is funded through NDOT and the Indianapolis MPO. That's your federal tax dollar coming back to you. The remaining balance of $600,000 is paid for by the city of Detroit. However, our friends at Franciscan Alliance are buying the naming rights. So their contribution is $400,000. So when the trail is done, it will be named Franciscan Trail. And I remember sitting at the table in my office with Sister Jane Marie Klein and the CEO Kevin Leahy and Dr. Callahan at Francisco South, and talking about the legacy of St. Francis Hospital. This was before they tore the building down. And I told them that we were going to do this Greenway, and we talked about what's their legacy going to be like once the building's down. Because all through this, that was the #1 question that I heard. What are they going to do with the hospital? What are they going to do with the hospital? What are they going to do with the hospital? And I explained to them that this is what people are telling me. They have a relationship with that building that it's not going to go away if you tear the building down. It's still going to be there. My relationship is I was born there. So I told them, I said, why don't you buy the naming rights to this trail, and your legacy will continue in this city. So they took it back to the executive board up in Mishawaka. And Kevin, the CEO, called me about a month and a half later and said, we'll do it. So they're buying the neighbors. We sent the invoice to them 2 days ago. So, because how this works is when INCON awards the bid for the project, that's when they ask the city for their share of the project. So by sometime in July, we will have to pay for our portion of the trail. It's a 2.2 mile trail, 5 trailheads and 4 bridges, and it's set to go sometime this fall. And when it's done, it'll be Franciscan Trail. I think it's a wonderful private-public partnership, and I really look forward to it. Next year, this time next year, we will have new sidewalks on Thompson Road between Emerson and 9th on the north side. That is another project funded by NDOT and the Indianapolis MPO. And then we are working, we have another project at 25th and Churchman, if you're familiar with that area. Another roundabout that will be set for construction in 2022. And that is about a $1.3 million project. All of these projects are federal funds that we all pay that come back to this city. And if we don't take advantage of it, another city is going to. So, Brad, again, kudos. Our relationship with NDOT is very good. Our relationship with the state of Indiana is very good. Our relationship with Indianapolis MPO is very good. So we have set ourselves in a position to receive these fundings to make improvements to our city. So I'm very happy about it, and some of it will change the looks of the city. So, and that's good. It's all right. Our Parks Director's here, Tom, and then Tom's over there. And Angel, there's Angel back there. Angel runs the community center. Both of them do a wonderful job. And it's important that we have good parks, and it's important that this building functions. 8 years ago, this building didn't do anything. It sat here. Now there's more activity here than you can keep up with. And that's good. Angel's done a very good job working this building and providing programs to the people of the city. Our Parks Department, there's nothing that beats driving through the park. And the improvements that have been made, continuing to put in paths to walk on, playground equipment, restrooms. So we are very, very fortunate to have an environmentalist as our Parks Director. The community center here has many programs provided to students and citizens of Beech Grove, and a lot of them are free. And one of the programs that they provide is the community dinner on Wednesday night. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a wonderful ministry. People come in and they can get a hot meal beginning at 5:30 to 7 on a Wednesday evening. I think Don and Mike Pence with the Lions Club, they volunteer there. But it's just, there's no questions asked. You know, if you want a hot meal, come in. And hey, it's so good that she's able to do that through Seconds Helping. This center operates a food pantry. I don't know if very many are aware of it, but it's ran very well. All of the food is donated. So, and it's on the other side of the center. You come in and ask for one of the staff members. And there's Mini Monday, Buzz Club, all kinds of MAD meetings, Coping with Divorce, Alumni Association, Going Green in a Grove, which is coming up in April. So, all of these programs are excellent. And I'm very grateful that Angels did what she's done. Eight years ago, the Parks Department was an albatross on the city budget. But that's changing. Council's done some good work over the last couple of years about creating non-reverting funds for the Parks Department so that they can continue to provide programs. Now, we went from no non-reverting fund in 2012. Last year, the Parks Department generated over $172,000 in funds to continue to operate programs. So the Angel should be commended, her staff should be commended, and the council should be commended because they're the ones who, Parks Board as well, they're the ones who enacted these programs. So that is very, very good. Our senior director is here, Stephanie Franklin. Nobody ever sees Stephanie, but she's right over. Raise your hand, Stephanie. Her and her assistant do a very good job down at the center. We have an aging population, and this is a place where seniors can go. And it's important that this service be there. They provide transportation to numerous seniors wanting to go to the store, doctor's office, or down to South Campus. So we are very grateful. And last year, they transported over 2,100 seniors to local doctor's offices, hospital, and grocery stores. So kudos to her and to Cindy. Cindy's not here today. Plus, she's very conservative. She returns over $17,000 back to the general fund at the end of 2019. We have a new clerk treasurer. Our clerk treasurer of 8 years didn't run anymore. And Jim Kaufman is here. Jim, everybody knows Jim. Jim's done a very good job. It's not easy what he's doing. And when you work with numbers, every once in a while it gets fuzzy, and you have to walk away from it. But Jim has worked to submit required reports from the Department of Local Government and Finance, State Board of Accounts, and he's continuing to work. And he gets a little frustrated every once in a while, but you just have to remind him that it takes a while to learn this job. And it'll take him 3 to 4 years to figure it out. It's not an easy job, balancing budgets, working with numbers. And our budget's only about $13 million, which is not very big, but still, he's done a nice job. Made some changes, and we're working through that, and we look forward to it's fun working with Jim. So, and I think the department heads concur with that. We've got some really good news at the end of the year on 2 fronts. The first front was our assessed valuation as a city. Our net worth for 2020 was certified at $487 billion. That's from the Department of Local Government and Finance. And Paul and I bat these numbers around all the time because it's important. It's important to the funding and to the budgets of the school district and the civil city. And what's significant about it is that when I became mayor in 2012, when I walked in the office, our assessed valuation was $325 million. So in 8 years, it's went up over $160 million, which is really good. That's good news for business. That's good news for people who own property. And I hope it continues to go up. Plus it drives the tax rate. Our taxes in Beach Grove, 4 of the last 5 years have went down. For 2020, the DGLF says that our tax rate will be lowered again. We still have the highest tax rate in Marion County, but it's going down, and I'm very happy about that as well. I always thought that the residents of Beach Grove should not foot the bill for government. It should be paid for by big industrial business. And we have been very fortunate in 2019 to become home to a couple more businesses. One of them you probably don't know anything about. There was a company called Bgsn Solutions, and they make testing equipment for fiber optic technology. If you ever have AT&T or Xfinity or somebody come to your house to service your wire, your cable, the testing equipment, if you look at the testing equipment, you might see Viavi on it. That's what they do. And they're a good corporate partner. They just bought, within the last year, bought a company called Trilithic, which was on the northeast side of Indianapolis. And they are growing, and they continue to grow, and they'll grow more in 2020. But they are a really good customer for us, and it's fun to work with these people. When we had the EF1 tornado come through here back in September, it was devastating to the high school. It was devastating to the people across the street, and it was devastating to Alro. Alro is a very good corporate partner of the city of Beach Grove. And one of the first day or two after the tornado, I went out and I spent time with Alro Steel. Because it could have been very easy for Alro Steel to just pack up and leave, because their building was virtually destroyed. And if that would have happened, we would have lost thousands and thousands of dollars in tax revenue each year. School would have suffered. But we worked with them. Brad's crew helped them out, and they wanted to rebuild, and they wanted to stay right where they were at. And that was good news for the economic side of Beach Grove. So they're back up and running, and I would imagine their property's worth more now than it's ever been, which is good for us. I had an interesting conversation with, and I still can't believe it to this day, a guy by the name of Brad Williams called me. He's from Collier International, and said that he had a client that was interested in moving in to an old trucking terminal at Churchman Bypass in Arlington, but he wouldn't disclose who it was. So we started talking, and he didn't ask for anything monetarily. All he asked for was future consideration of a curb cut on Arlington. Okay. And this went on, this conversation probably went on for 30 to 40 days. And he finally told me that the people that want to lease this trucking terminal was Amazon. And they had this new product that they want to roll out. It's called Amazon the Last Mile. And it's for large orders, and it's local deliveries. So I started working with Amazon people, but there was nobody from Amazon locally. It's the weirdest thing. It was either out of Phoenix, Arizona, or Washington, D.C. And to this day, I have never met any of them, but I've talked to them. And they knew more about, we know a lot about Beach Grove, but I was stunned at how much they knew about the city of Beach Grove, and how much they researched the city of Beach Grove. I'm talking about who's their neighbors, their traffic patterns out there, and all of that. They knew that. And every once in a while, I spend time with the corporate people out there, and my friend Craig Moore out at Kinectrics Energy, we had lunch one day. He said, I got to tell you something. He said, I don't know what's going on, but he said, but we monitor who's on our website. And he said, for the last 6 months, Amazon has been our #1 hit on our website. And I said, well, I'll tell you why, Craig, they're going to be your neighbor. And it's just odd how that all works. So, and they have already invested millions of dollars into a building that they don't even own. So, and there's been pop-up businesses that have started up, delivery businesses, as a result of them coming here. So we used to never see Amazon, but now you see them every day, all day long. So it's kind of neat to watch how that works. And then, of course, for over 40 years, the property north of the railroad has been vacant, or has been dormant, and CSX finally decided that they wanted to sell it. So they sold the property to a group called Heritage Group. So Heritage Group currently is working on preparing that property for development. So we'll see what happens with that property within the next 6 months to see what they actually do. I know that there's a couple businesses that they own 9 businesses, and they want to bring 2 of them into Beech Grove. So we're going to work with them to see what we can do. We've already done a lot of work with them, but that will also help the civil city of Beech Grove and the school district. So these are all good things that are happening, and we hope in 2020 they continue. So I want to talk to you about 2 more things, and then I want to sit down. Number 1 is the school referendum. This is the 3rd referendum that I have been involved with since I've been mayor. And I supported the first 2. And I support this one as well, and I'll tell you why. We can talk about teacher salaries, and I agree. I would like to see teachers paid as much as possible. I'm a strong advocate for the police in the schools. That's what's really gotten my attention. But I also, setting all the things aside, if we want to have a good school district, and my 8 years as mayor, I've worked off the premise that if you don't have a good school district, you're not going to have a good city. So I support education. I support the school district. I always have. And I think we should go to the polls and vote for this because we have to keep it. It's different than it was 10 to 15 years ago. But we have to keep up as a school district or we're going to fall behind. So that's where I'm at on the school referendum. Some don't agree with that, but that has been my position since day 1. The coronavirus. Tomorrow we meet at 1 o'clock with the department heads, and we're going to have to make a couple adjustments on how we provide services. We should really take a look at the senior center because of the aging population. We should take a look at this building with the number of people that come in this building. We should look at City Hall, the number of people, especially elderly, who come in to do business. And I have to sit down with the police chief and the fire chief, especially the fire chief, because it radically changes how our EMS is provided to all of you. This isn't going to go away tomorrow, and as time goes on, there'll be more and more cases that pop up. And we have constant contact with the State Health Department and the Marion County Health Department. Our friends at Franciscan Alliance has been good to work with over the last week concerning this matter. And we have to protect our employees, but we also have to provide a service. So we have to balance that very delicately. And I think all of us should pay close attention to what is going on and how we can minimize our risk. So Having said that, I want to sit down. I'm very happy with our city. I'm not satisfied because I would if I was satisfied. But I'm happy with the direction of our city. I'm happy with the services that are provided. And I think that's it. So, Renee, thank you for letting me speak, and God bless all of us. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor Buckley. We're going to do a quick